Hello and welcome to this week's Whole Week Costed. Um, for Kev, I'm Jay. And today we're going to be talking about Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the animated film that came out in 2008. It takes Kev. You want to tell them a little bit about it, where it takes place?
Yeah, so I'll do the opening narration. A galaxy divided, striking swiftly after the Battle of Geonosis, Count Dooku's droid army has seized control of the major hyperspace lanes, separating the Republic from the majority of its clone army. With few clones available, the Jedi generals cannot gain a foothold on the Outer Rim as more and more planets choose to join Dooku's separatists. While the Jedi are occupied fighting the war, no one is left to keep the peace. Chaos and crime spread, and the innocent become victims in a lawless galaxy. Crime Lord Jabba the Hutt's son has been kidnapped by a rival band of pirates. Desperate to save his son, Jabba puts out a call for help, a call that Jedi are cautious to answer. Now, I wanted to read all that because it's really long. It's much longer than the standard episodes, and that's because this really just felt like a bunch of episodes put together, which apparently it was.
Yeah, it was definitely, you know, we start off on Christophus,
Christophus, yeah.
Christophus, yeah. From the previous episode, and so I guess that's where the timeline is, and then it just kind of goes all over the place. There's no chronological time.
Yeah, if you look, even just in this description, I think it shows it pretty well. You have the first part, they just had the Battle of Geonosis, and then the Jedi generals can't gain a foothold in the Outer Rim. More planets join the Separatists, so that's an episode. And then while the Jedi are occupied fighting a war, no one's left to keep the peace. Chaos and crime spread, and it's become victims in a lawless galaxy. That's an episode. And then the saving Jabba the Hutt's son is an episode.
Actually, the saving the Jabba the Hutt's son is like a 3-part episode. It's I kind of would have liked it better as an episode where Jabba the Hutt's son is kidnapped, and then they fall. The Jedi's fall into a trap, and then the second episode is the big battle, and then the third episode would be the Count Dooku betraying Jabba the Hutt, and the fourth episode would be Zero the Hutt betraying his uncle to take over the Hutts. That could have been a movie in itself.
Yeah, well, so it was supposed to be a trilogy of episodes: Castle of Deception, Castle of Doom, and Castle of Salvation. And the standalone episode, The New Padawan, which was supposed to be a flashback episode. And that's what we were just talking about actually before we got on, was about the timeline, because so I said at the end of last week's episode that I read somewhere that the movie happened after last week's episodes, and it does. It said it in the movie Wikipedia. I finally found it when I was reading stuff today. But then it's really confusing because this starts off with him meeting Ahsoka, and it makes sense real world wise because the movie came out before the series started. So you'd have to introduce Ahsoka in the movie and introduce some of the other characters in the movie, like we see Rex and Cody in the movie too. But then it doesn't make any sense because it happens 16 episodes into the series, but then he's just meeting Ahsoka for the first time, who he's obviously already had a long relationship with by the first episode of the series, or I guess the second episode of the series. But that explains that's why, because it was really supposed to be a flashback episode, and I feel like if they wanted to, I mean, they could have done that. They could have showed that and then had some time pass in the movie, done something to show that time had passed, and then moved on with the rest of the story, and that could have kept it in a normal chronological timeline with the episodes. But it doesn't. I don't think any time passes in the movie. He just meets her, and then it's right on to the other stuff.
Yeah, she's already a badass. You're like, what?
Yeah, that is true too. She's. I mean, I guess it's not like we see a lot of brand new Padawans, so we don't exactly know what level. Because I mean, obviously she's already had years of training. So, I mean, I guess maybe her power level isn't unreasonable. I mean, she has trouble fighting that group of Magna guards at the end. So it's not like it's not like when we see her in already the first 16 Clone Wars episodes that we watched, where she's cuts through a lot of droids without a lot of difficulty. I mean, she is clearly still learning at this point.
Right. Yeah, I just I do like if we go back to the beginning where Obi-Wan's like, yeah, I ordered myself a Padawan, like he like a mail order Padawan, and Anakin's like, never for me, and then he's like, no, and then Ahsoka she shows up and Anakin and he's like, oh no, I report to Master Anakin. I was like, good old Obi-Wan tricking him.
Honestly, the thing I'm really the most curious about is Ahsoka's arc throughout the whole series, and I'm assuming that since it's all out now, I mean that a lot of people listening to our podcast have already seen the later episodes and know what it is. But for me, I don't. We're reacting as we watch them. I think you're a few episodes ahead, but I'm watching each week as we talk about them.
Right.
And I feel like I'm just most interested in her arc because well, obviously, it's kind of the Rogue One problem, right? Like, obviously, she's not in the movies, so we know something happens to her.
Just from seeing different advertisements, she is in Rebels, which takes place after Clone Wars.
Okay. Yeah, I guess again, I don't know exactly where the Clone Wars series ends chronologically as far as in relation to then when the next movie starts.
Yeah.
But
I read an article about the Jedi, about Order 66. Like for years they were still hunting Jedi, and like a lot of Jedi actually survived because of the message Obi-Wan sent out at off the Jedi temple.
that makes sense. But yeah, but I'm really most interested in her story, and it was interesting seeing the beginning here, how this was this whole plan thing from Yoda, and I guess it makes sense it would be, but because and then there's the line towards the beginning of the movie too, where Anakin says, "Well, you wouldn't have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan, but you might make it as mine." And we said this in the early episodes, like she is kind of like Anakin, like she doesn't really follow orders well. She's pretty rash and impulsive. She's a little disrespectful. Like she definitely is. She definitely is like an even more immature Anakin, which I don't know how I feel about that because I feel like Anakin. I don't know. I feel like Anakin's more immature in the movies than he is here. Like I feel like here, if you didn't know, like if you didn't have a picture in your head of Anakin from watching the prequels, I feel like you would think he was closer to a rebellious Obi-Wan than as as much of a childish teenager as he is in the prequels, where he's just kind of sulky and I guess you see hints of it honestly more in the Clone Wars movie where they have the scenes between him and Padme than you have it in the episode so far.
All right. How old do you think she is in this? Like, how old would you be, you know, like as a Padawan? Because I'm looking it up. It doesn't seem like there's an age. Like, you think she's about like 13 or 14?
That's kind of what I picture in my head. I kind of had 14 in my head, but then I also don't know like what the age of the age timeline of her race would be. So how young or old that is for her? Like, is it are they exact analogs to
Yeah,
humans?
that's what I mean. Like, I'm not sure, but like what, like, because some of the clone troopers call her youngling. So it's like she's like, I'm not a youngling. I'm like a Padawan.
Yeah, but I guess she just was recently, and she's still, you know, she's still young, yeah, sort of learning wise, even if she's not young age wise. But and she's sort of, I mean, she's clearly meant to act like a teenage girl. So I don't know again exactly what age and that she is, but I mean, she's definitely meant to act like a teenage girl, and I think somewhat unrealistically, honestly, because I mean, even though she is, I guess, we'll say maybe a 14-year-old girl, she has been training as a Jedi for all this time,
Yeah,
so
it'd be like today's monks where they would learn like respect and yeah, like not to sound rude, but I really think like all the Padawans and the younglings and everything, they would have been broken by now because they start very young, like very, very young. So they would have been broken to learn how to uh learn respect and learn how to act and know when to talk and everything. The reason Anakin is so rebellious is because he started when he was like 9 or 10. So like that's Yoda's problem. It's like, oh no, he's way too old, and it's like we can't indoctrinate him at 10. Like he's already lived a life and like understands people and been around. Where the younglings it's like start at like 2 or 3.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, unless she started later for some reason, I guess we don't know yet. I was looking up. So Togrutas is her race, which I kind of want to look up how to pronounce that. I kind of wanted to look up how to pronounce that before I said it here, but yeah, and they refer to the head things as montrals, large montrals and head tails. So apparently those help them sense movement. So I guess for Ahsoka, besides having the Force, she also has some natural innate ability for sensing far away movement. But yeah, it's sort of I don't know. because I feel like they again, I said it a little bit last week. Like I feel like Ahsoka's supposed to be a teenage girl, and the shows. I mean, I'm not sure what age range the show is aimed at. If the target demographic is like younger boys who might be, I guess, like about what her age would be chronologically. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but
I was just letting you try to think. I was gonna let you think. So.
No, I have a thought, but I just don't know. I don't want to say it wrong and make it a weird thought, if that makes sense. I'm just saying. I think she's supposed to be like the cute girl in the show, assuming the show is aimed at like younger boys. I guess is what I'm trying to say. But then the same thing as I was saying last week. Then like if it was live action, like what do those entrails actually look like in real life? Because again, you picture them sort of as hair. When you see them animated, and they're clearly not.
She is 14. She's 14.
Okay. Yeah,
because she was born 36 BBY, and Attack of the Clones takes place in 22 BBY. So
okay.
She's about 13 or 14. So,
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I did some quick research. That's why I wasn't talking that much. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. Like she'd be like you know what I mean, like the rough and tumble tomboy girl.
Yeah.
Kids are secretly like, I don't like the tomboys, and like they totally do because like they'll hit them back.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I think she's a little bit that to like as an added draw for like young like teenage male viewers, or and then
or even girls. They're like, oh yeah, this 13-year-old can be tough and everything too. So
no, that's totally true too. I mean, she's obviously that's obviously more of her main focus in the show. She's a really good. I was gonna say she's a really good female character, which I kind of hate because she's just a really good character. But if you're going to talk about it from the demographic perspective, she's a really good female character. She, and I feel like she's the argument that people bring up when people bash people that don't like the sequel trilogy because they don't like Rey. And then there was that whole discussion for the last few years about how there's just all these fat guys in their mom's basement that just don't hate women, and that's why they don't like the sequel trilogy, don't like Rey. But a lot of those people probably like Ahsoka because she's a really good character. Yeah,
Rey's a terrible character. Rey's like the person we all like hate. It's like, oh, I'm really good at this. Like I've never done it before. Like it's like imagine if you played basketball and a person who has never even seen a basketball came up to you and like started like dunking on you and shit. Like you're like, you motherfucker! I spent 10 years working on this skill, and you're already better than me. Like
yeah. So I don't know. So I think. Well, I think the original point we're trying to get to with this though was that. About how Ahsoka acts in the episode after she would have had all this training, like I was thinking even with her raising baby Jabba, which is probably what we should call him. But with her taking care of baby Jabba, I mean she I don't know. I feel like she just says things that were like a little anachronistic, like about oh, you woke up the baby. Like I don't know. Like that's something that like we would know because we've had siblings or have kids or like have just seen that on television. That's like a thing. Like being like, oh, you're allowed to woke up the baby now. I mean, babies don't sleep much at nights. Now we're mad about it. But like, I don't know. She was raised, yeah, basically as a monk, like you said.
Yeah.
Like she wouldn't like that line would not come to her head.
Right. Unless I don't. We don't know much about Padawans. They can know everything about raising kids or whatever.
Maybe. I guess they could be. They would be around really young children. From the really earliest ones when they're first taken for training.
Right. Yeah, like the older, like the 10-year-olds probably watched the like 3-year-old Padawans.
Yeah.
So that could be part of their responsibility because they are selfless. Like, oh, now it's your turn. Like Yoda's definitely not watching, overnight watching younglings.
Yeah. So
all right, let's move on from the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Well, I think from there, I mean, I think the next thing I was thinking was just about the dialogue in general. So like there was that really anachronistic dialogue line we were just talking about, but I feel like the dialogue in general is like pretty weak in this. Like it made me think of a few episodes ago where Anakin and Obi-Wan, I think it's at the start of an episode, and they're flying and they end up crashing, and they're like sort of snippy with each other, and they have this back and forth banter, but it's like not funny, and it's a little bit uncomfortable, and you don't know how serious versus like you don't know what's going like if it's sarcastic or not. Like, there was a lot of that in this. There's that exact same scene where Ahsoka and Anakin are crash landing, and and it's the exact same scene. They're like, I don't know. I think Anakin, they like Ahsoka says something like, "Oh, well, if it crashed, then it's not a landing," and Anakin's like, "Well, I guess it's a crash landing," and this is like terrible dialogue.
Yeah. You just get it's also meant for 14-year-olds, so
Yeah.
they might think it's funny. But some of the episodes are really good, and some of them like are like that. Like you're like, oh no. But some also build like really good world building, or like the episodes where you're like, man, I hate Jar Jar, and then you watch this show, and you're like, Jar Jar's like stupid, but like lovable at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like speaking of world building, I had the thought during a couple things, like when they had the like faux like cantina band sort of thing, like that they just. I feel like they tried to put too many things in this that were like maybe a little fan servicey just to try to, because this wasn't made for fans of the Clone Wars because the Clone Wars hadn't happened yet. This was made for fans of the original trilogy and the prequels. And I feel like they tried to fit too many things in places that would remind you of those instead of trying to just make their own new thing.
Are you talking about the cantina band that's on Coruscant by Zero the Hutt?
Yeah.
Did Zero the Hutt bring his own cantina band that looks exactly like the New Hope cantina band 20 years prior?
I'm pretty sure, or maybe it's them. Maybe they eventually end up where they end up in the original trilogy.
Are they the Blue Man Group of the Galactic Empire?
I think so. Or it's just like what was that series of South Park episodes where there was like the Panamanian flute bands or whatever they were, and they're just everywhere.
Yeah. Now, if we go into like that big reveal towards the end of it, where we find out there's another Hutt, and there's Zero the Hutt.
Yeah.
And that I mean, I kind of like that scene, but I hated it because it kind of came out of nowhere. They're like, we'll check with Zero the Hutt right on Coruscant. And like, don't. And then Palpatine's like, no, don't do it. But it, like secretly, it's like, yes, please do it. And then Zero the Hutt's like super powerful as well. And then it's like, oh, I'm trying to take over my nephew's Hutt clans, I guess, for the Outer Rim.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of made no sense. Like you're in Coruscant, you're the inner, and you're trying to do the inner and the Outer Rim. It was just like it was too much.
Yeah, it was. It was too much. It was a weird coincidence. It was just like oh, we got this guy right. It's like oh, we'll just out of the whole galaxy, I'm just gonna check with the guy right down the street. It's like, oh, it was the guy right down the street. That's great. We didn't have to fly 35 light years away. Like,
Yeah.
but it really worked out well.
It's like they made a movie, and then they were like, all right, let's just make everything very easy to go. And it's like that's why it would have been better off if you know if it was a movie, it would have been better if it had just been episodes and they made a wholly totally different like Clone Wars movie.
Yeah, exactly. Just either just made a proper introductory movie, and not piece it together from footage from the episodes, which again, it clearly feels like that now after watching the Clone Wars. And I really wonder what it would have felt like if we hadn't known anything about the Clone Wars, if this would have felt even more like stilted or not. Yeah. Because again, I mean, it got really bad critic ratings when it came out. The fan ratings were better, but it was also right after the prequel series. So I was reading some of the reviews from it, and one person basically said like, well, I really like this movie because my expectations were already set so low from the Phantom Menace. This was good in comparison.
Hey, question for you. Side note, sidebar. How much do you think Ventress spends on capes?
She doesn't lose a lot of capes.
Yeah, every time she fights Obi-Wan, she's like, let me just take off my cape. And you're like, I don't know, man. Like, I buy jackets, and like I go to Boscov's. Those are the cheapest jackets anywhere for quality. And like, I'm not losing my jacket. And I have one jacket. And she's like, just cape. Like, over the Clone Wars, how many times has she thrown her cape off at someone?
Maybe she eventually goes back and gets them. Or maybe she has like somebody, like she sends a droid to get them later. Like, hey, yeah, true. I guess it would be cheaper just to buy a new cape every time.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe her ship just has a whole closet of capes.
Yeah, but like every time we see her fight, she's like, I'm just ripping off my cape. And you're like, stop ripping off your goddamn cape. And then she lost a lightsaber.
Yeah. I hope at some point Obi-Wan calls her out and is like, oh, like the cape thing again. Like, just it's fine. Like, you just come like you are. Like, I don't need the dramatic reveal. Like, and again, going back to the 14-year-old boy thing, they pan over your whole body every time they show you in the Clone Wars. Like we don't need the cape reveal.
Yeah, we get it. And they do write her character like she definitely has hate in her heart. Like, she's like, I hate this, but I really feel like it's one of those things that like she hates this because she's being told who to hate. Like, and I'm probably wrong, but like by the end of the series, like Ventress will just like be good again. She'll be like, oh, I didn't have to hate these people forever. They were, Dooku was lying to me, or something like that.
See, I don't think she will, because I think she's just. I think actually her character model is really great because I agree. I 100% agree with what you're saying. I feel like she just has this twisted appearance where she looks. It's like a Tom Riddle to Voldemort sort of thing. Like she's a little Voldemort looking, like just with the no hair and with. I don't know, just the sort of very small facial features, like they've almost been sunken in a little bit. Like she just looks like a body that's been twisted by hate is really what she looks like.
Yeah. And it's like, it's one of those things, like I could just look it up on Wikipedia, but I want to watch it throughout the rest of the series. But like, I want to know what her background is. I want to know, why she's doing this, like what's going to happen in the future, because she actually like is a very good character, in my opinion. I really like her characterization. Like, she's a good enemy. I mean, she's a failure completely all the time, but she's a good enemy.
Yeah, I kind of would like an enemy somewhere in the Clone Wars that doesn't suck. Like, I mean, because like Grievous is clearly powerful, Ventress is clearly powerful, but they lose all the time. Like, I don't know. I kind of want at least an arc somewhere where the enemies just win for a little bit and we see a really powerful enemy. Like I guess we saw in the first few episodes, with the with the ship that they were hunting initially.
The
You know,
Malevolence.
the Malevolence, yeah. I mean, we saw it for like an episode, and honestly, that's still maybe one of my favorite like arc. 16 episodes in is those first, I guess, episodes 2 and 3. I guess it was, or maybe it was like 3 and 4, but where you have this ultra powerful, force that they don't know how to deal with, and then they have to overcome it. Versus these in the same episode things where it's like, oh, they fight Ventress and they beat Ventress. Oh, they fight Grievous and they beat Grievous. Like, right. I don't know. I thought that was more interesting and like a little bit more mature storytelling too.
Yeah, I do like the episode where the two Jedi went to go hunt. The two Jedi went to go hunt Grievous and
the Lair of Grievous.
Jedi, huh?
But the Lair of Grievous.
Yeah, that one was good. That one was good where they kill the Jedi do lose that battle. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So there are like stakes, but we do know that those two will never be killed. Like Osaka, like those two, and a couple other Jedi, like you see them, like Yoda will never, you know what I mean? The tension isn't real.
Yeah, well, and in this movie in particular, like I feel like there are some tense moments in the Clone Wars. Like we've seen Anakin get injured badly and stuff. Like obviously not going to get killed, but you don't know like how they're going to get out of it. But there was no tension in these battles in the movie.
Yeah, and yeah, but when like Anakin gets killed or whatever, the tension builds. Or sorry, when Anakin gets injured, other Jedi, like that's where the tension is for me. I'm like, oh shit, Anakin's out. That means like the other Jedi are vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, in the movie, I mean, these were just battles with no stakes. I mean, really. I mean, we knew. I don't know. I mean, they tried to make something in the opening battle with the shield generator moving towards their cannon, so at least there were clear stakes in that battle. Even though, I mean, if you're watching it without having seen the Clone Wars, like you don't really care about Rex and Cody. Like they were the only people that were really kind of in danger. Obviously, Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, nothing was going to happen to them. Obviously they were going to get the shield generator. So, but that was still the most interesting battle. Some of the other battles just really drug on, like when they were assaulting that monastery and they were going up that cliff. I don't know. I honestly. I watched most of this last night, but fell asleep during one of these battles, and then watched the end, and then watched the part in the middle I missed today.
We didn't lose much plot.
No, I didn't lose any plot. I felt like I didn't miss anything. I did miss Obi-Wan's battle with Ventress, but it didn't answer my question as to why there's so much sexual tension between Obi-Wan and Ventress.
You thought there would be like more like reveal, and it's like he's like, come on, Ventress, let's let's fight. And she's like, all right. And Obi-Wan just keeps running away. Like Obi-Wan definitely doesn't want to kill anyone.
Yeah, no, it's true, because then he tries to sit down early in the episode. I mean, it was a ploy, but I mean, I'm sure he could have killed the Separatist leader in the beginning, and he didn't. Once he had the advantage on Ventress, he basically told her like, "Why don't you just give up?" Like, I don't think he's. Well, and if you think about it too, I mean, he's mostly killing droids, so right. We don't really have. I mean, has he directly killed a sentient, or I guess an organic being at this point? 16 episodes of one movie in.
Yeah, we're. I don't believe so. No,
it's interesting. Versus, I really don't think Anakin would have a problem with it.
And I mean, in the live action movies,
he kills the sand people.
He kills a couple people like at bars, like
and the youngling,
Attack of the Clones, and New Hope. He kills a couple people at bars, and that's about it. Like he's anti-bar, I think.
Obi-Wan you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was say because Anakin kills a lot of people.
Anakin's a murderer. Yeah, Obi-Wan's just like Obi-Wan just wants to have a drink at a bar by himself, and people bother him, and he's like, I'm just gonna cut off hands.
Yeah, I feel like Anakin too. They had to put the sand thing in there. Like he's like, oh, I hate sand. Gets everywhere. Like, I mean, he didn't say that in this one, but he basically did. And then they have the sand fight with Dooku. So I mean I feel like the sand fight seemed appropriate.
Yeah.
The him telling Ahsoka how bad sand is was like, he hates sand. It gets everywhere.
I do like I like every single Dooku scene though in the movie. Every single Dooku scene is so good.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a good character. And he also because the way I felt like he didn't see as much bad animation for him because of the way he moves anyway. That was one of the most jarring things about this, you know. And when I was reading a little bit about the movie before I watched it, they people were saying about how the animation's bad, like the first couple episodes of the Clone Wars show. But I think the animation in the show I think it's good. It doesn't bother me at all. I guess maybe it gets better later on, but it really bothered me in the movie.
I was thinking the same thing because I'm not complaining about the animation, but
It was bad.
Some of the episodes in the and during the show, like I'm like, oh man, the animation is like amazing, and like some parts of it, you're like, you can't like. I mean, once you get immersed, I'm like, oh, is this live action? But then this show, I'm like, oh, this isn't great.
See,
All right.
and that's what kind of confuses me because they supposedly, basically use footage from the shows that they were already working on. So do they put less effort into the theatrical release movie than they did the shows? Like, did they go back and clean up the show stuff? But then say, fuck it, we're going to throw this out here. People are going to buy it. We only spent $8 million. We're definitely making our money back. So who cares? Like, is that what happened with the movie?
They probably need to make some quick money, Lucasfilm.
Maybe, I don't know, but because it starts out and you have Mace Windu and the Admiral are two of the first people we see, and even their character models look terrible. When you see then Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, they look fine until they start moving, and then the animation is just real janky. Like it's just very wooden. Like it's like they're like puppets on a string. Is like what their animation's like.
Yeah, and then a lot of the lightsaber stuff is very like it kind of reminded me of A New Hope, very like slow and everything. But during the show, like you see them jumping and spinning, and the more you think about it, I think you're right.
Yeah, lightsaber battles are supposed to be smooth. If you think, like, I think about from the prequels, Yoda fighting. Does Yoda fight Count Dooku? Who does he fight?
He fights Dooku in Attack of the Clones, and he fights Palpatine in the third one.
Yeah. So those battles are so smooth and fluid as there's just constant motion. There's like, lightsabers are sort of like passing over each other instead of it being like two, metal swords where it's like clang, clang, clang. And that's what this battle was like. Like I'm thinking specifically about the Obi-Wan Ventress fight where it's like, because I kind of had the thought like, well, what's the point of her having two swords? Because she only uses one sword at a time. Right. Because she would like swing and then Obi-Wan would block her, and then she would swing the other sword and Obi-Wan would block her, and then it was like, yeah, I don't know. It was more like a reenactment of a lightsaber battle than a lightsaber battle.
What I did like though was Ahsoka and the three droids towards the end of the film, where it wasn't like her just like wiping the droids out. Like they show her like grow and like learn how to think during the fight. Like, how do I defeat these? Because like I can't take them on, I can't take them on in a frontal assault. So I have to think about like how I would do this, So I kind of like that battle. It wasn't, it showed her like learning and growing, being on her own.
I agree. I don't know. I think it's basically all I have to talk about this. I'm also thinking about how long the episode's getting and putting the video together. What's that?
34 minutes.
Okay, I can do that.
One thing One
Yeah.
thing that I was hoping the whole time, like, I was, like, giddy about, like, when Jabba gets his son back, I thought he was just gonna throw it in a big pit of, like, other, like, sons, like tadpoles.
That would have been funny. Baby Jabba.
Yeah,
A whole bunch of
like
baby Jabbas.
yeah, like, they kidnapped my son, but there's, like, 50 in, like, a pool.
Um, I feel like the episode title might have to be Baby Jabba Do Do To Do.
Alright. Well, thanks for listening to this week's, Whole Week Costa. For Kev, I'm Jay. Check us out on, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, our Libsyn page. Thanks for listening.